Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Skota and I'm a literacy coach with NQC Literacy, and I'm just going to be doing a really quick unboxing video for the Lucy Calkins curriculum. So this is a specific video just for teachers who are not familiar with Lucy Calkins and who have received a kit in their classroom, or it's at home and they're like, what do I do with it? I don't know. So you have a kit in your hands, and we're going to kind of walk through it together, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is when you look at your kit, I have a writing kit with me, a kindergarten writing kit, but it doesn't matter. Most of the kits are basically the same. So I have a writing kit, but like I said, reading is very similar as well. So when you open up your kit, you're going to have a bunch of different things in it, okay? The first thing you're going to have in it is you're going to have 4 spiral bound books, okay? These are your units. There are 4 of them, and they're denoted in the top right-hand corner what grade, what unit it is, and what genre, okay? There's also a couple of additional books that we're just gonna set aside for right now. The first one is the If-Then curriculum, and this one is basically it has some additional bonus units and teaching points and kind of some troubleshooting things. This is not something that new users should be working on right now. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Another thing that it has in there is the Guide to Writing or Reading Workshop. This is also like the base, the framework of Reading and Writing Workshop, but we're also going to put this aside right now because you will be receiving professional development around this, and you'll have a coach to kind of walk you through these things and save you a little bit of time reading that. The other thing is for writing, you will be in your writing kit, you'll have a writing pathways book. And this is where checklists and rubrics and student samples, all sorts of things are found in here, but they're also housed online. So this is also something that we're going to kind of put aside right now because I'll show you how to register your units and get online and find those, okay? So we're going to kind of go through those spiral bound notebooks. So if you could open up your kit, find a spiral bound notebook. It doesn't matter which one. And we're going to kind of go through it together. So this one I have is kindergarten, grade 2 narrative, or sorry, unit 2 narrative. Okay. So if you open up to the front cover, there's a lot of information in here. We're only going to focus on the first column. The first column says session mini lesson. Lucy Calkins calls a session, basically it's a lesson or a mini lesson. So when we talk about doing a writing lesson or a reading lesson, we're talking about doing one session, okay? And the title of the lesson is right there for you in that first column. There are also conferring and small group work column and a mid-workshop teaching and a share column. And those are all elements of the reading and writing workshop, but we're not going to focus on them within this unit because it's too much. There's just too much information. So in your first year of teaching, we really focus on just focusing on that mini lesson and making it really strong and tight. Another thing to note is that each of these lessons is broken up in a bend. You can kind of see it's like gray. And basically when Lucy Calkins uses the word bend as in if you're walking along a path and you take a bend in the road, right? So you're turning a corner and you're learning about something specific. There's a specific focus to that bend. Another thing to notice is that each bend provides less and less support as you go along. So the first bend provides a lot of support and scaffolding for your students. And then each bend that you come across as you go through the unit, it helps you kind of move through and continue on learning and providing more and more independence for your students, okay? So what I want you to do right now is there's a couple of pages in the first beginning of it, the overview of the unit, getting ready, some basics on assessment. You can look through those things and skim through them pretty quickly just to have an idea of what's going on in what your unit is going to be about. Now I want you to focus on finding a session. It doesn't matter which one it is. They're all basically the same. Almost every single lesson, K-8 has the same format, okay? So I'm opening up, I just flipped to page session 2. And the first part always has about 1 or 2 pages of paragraph form writing. And it has a basic overview. It's pretty flowery. I normally skip it. I don't have time for that stuff, so I skip it. Something to note though is this post-it note here with the little pin in it. That gives you a quick rundown of the materials that you might need, okay? So when you flip to the next page and it says mini lesson at the very top in all caps, this is where the actual lesson comes in, okay? There's the title, and then in caps, there are 4 components to every mini lesson. And Naval talked about this in the launch time, but there's the connection, the teaching, the active engagement, and the link. So the connection is where you are connecting with your students on a very personal level, either saying things like, yesterday, this is what we learned, or, you know, remember when this happened? Let's connect it to what I'm about to teach you today. Lucy offers you some writing in here, an example. You can take it or leave it. You can kind of come up with your own, it doesn't matter. So it's a really quick connecting point where you're opening up your video or your live lesson. The teaching part is the big part. And this is where you're actually modeling your skill and strategy that you're teaching. So we've talked a little bit about the teaching point, and that's always denoted by this flower icon right here. It says name the teaching point, and that's on every single lesson. Now, the thing about Lucy Calkins is that she's very verbose. So a lot of times her teaching point is not very clear. She teaches, so we need to really make it very clear and concise. And that's where we talk about using that teaching point language. Today I want to teach you blank by blank. This is important because blank. So you're teaching students a skill and then the strategy. How are you going to actually do that? And so that is where the teaching part really comes in, where you're saying, let me show you what I mean. Let me open up my book and I'm going to show you how to model this skill and strategy in my own, book or writing or whatever it is. And it's pretty much laid out for you in here as an example. So that's the teaching aspect. If you continue flipping, you'll notice another chunk of the lesson is called the active engagement lesson. Now in a classroom, this is where you would be saying, turn and talk to your partner. And now you try this. I want you to try this skill and strategy out, either in my book, or I want you to think about a book that you've been reading and try out the skill and strategy. If you're at home, it might be tell a partner or tell a grandparent or an adult nearby, or it could just be, I want you to think in your head about what you're going to do. So it's a safe spot for them to try out the skill and strategy. And the link is the last part. This is the part where you are sending students off to do something independently, where you're saying, go off and try this skill and strategy on your own. And you're giving specific details. I want you to set a timer for 15 minutes, and I want you to choose a book on Epic and do this, or choose a book from your book bag, or some specific instructions that correlate to your lesson. And so that's where you're tasking students with, go off and try this skill and strategy on your own, in your own book or in your own reading. So those 4 components, the connection, the teaching point, the active engagement, and the link are all very important for you to, and that is in each one of these lessons. Those are the basics of them, okay? So that is a very basic rundown of each of your mini lessons. Now, we've mentioned before that you really need to register your units. It is really, really important that you register your units because there is a plethora of information that you will need in order to teach these units well. So things like anchor charts and student samples and checklists and rubrics. Things that you can use to, post-it notes of a teaching point that you can share or share virtually with your students, so they are able to kind of know exactly what skill and strategy they're working on. So if you go to heinemann.com, you need to create an account and then click the button where it says register your unit. And they'll ask you for a code. The codes are for reading, it's always RUOS, units of study, or for writing it's WUOS _ and then your grade. So if it's grade GR8, GR5, GR2, or if it's in kindergarten, it's just _K. So I hope that helps clear up some things and helps you understand a little bit more of what you're being asked to share and to kind of work through these things with your students. Your literacy coach is here to help you and walk you through all of these different things. This is just kind of a quick video of, I have a kit, what do I do, how do I do this, and kind of go from there, okay? So reach out to your literacy coach if you have any questions. Have a nice day.